episode. We sincerely apologize for starting behind time. We had a little network challenge, but that has been resolved. So once again, thank you for joining us. My name is Janet Michael, the Director for Media and Information Institute of Global Peace and Conflict Management. And so once again, welcome to today's episode. I have here with me Dr. Emeka, a student of the ongoing 1 month free online certification training. We have other students who would be panelists for this section that will be joining us. So welcome, Dr. Emeka. We're glad to have you. Mrs. Susan, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so back to our audience. Then we're looking at quite an interesting topic. So the topic we're looking at is based off on the ongoing 1 month professional training, free online training course on emotional intelligence. So for this training, we're having students coming to share with us their experiences from the course and also what they have learned so far. So today we are looking at the topic, how can emotional intelligence training program enhance the skills for mediators and peacekeepers? So if you're among us, if you're a viewer, you are a mediator or a peacekeeper, we'll be talking about how emotional intelligence training can enhance your skill to be better at what you do. So once again, thank you for joining us. And also, we would love to have you in this conversation. So do well to reach out to us in the comment section. Let us know the questions, your contributions, and we would want you to be actively involved. So once again, thank you. And to our panelists, Dr. Emeka, you're welcome once again. Please, can you share with us your experience so far from the 1 month 1 month free online training course in emotional intelligence? Sorry, Doc, your mic is muted.
Okay, I think I'm okay now.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes, it's been a rewarding exercise. I would have blamed myself if I didn't partake in this very course. I have seen that though it's coming late in my life as a person, I'm a retiree, but it's better late than never, as a matter of fact. I have gained tremendously. I have seen that if we have peace and tranquility in the nation, in the world will be a very good place to live in. And if one had been equipped with the skills of emotional intelligence all through life, all through school, one would have been able by now to have beaten his chest to count the number of people he may have influenced through regulations, behavioral regulations, and so on and so forth, through the skills of emotional intelligence. So it's been highly rewarding. I thank the Institute for Global Peace and Conflict Management for this opportunity. It's an opportunity of a lifetime, and I thank God for it. Now, the topic before us, main topic, how can the emotional intelligence training programs enhance the skills of peace mediators and peacekeepers? Well, my little answer from the knowledge I have gained is that emotional intelligence is at the heart of peacekeeping and conflict resolution in the world, in human nature. Therefore, The skills that are impacted through the emotional intelligence, one, self-awareness. Why? Because self-awareness, you have to know yourself before you know others. If you don't know yourself, you won't know others. If you know yourself, you know how to regulate your behavioral pattern, how to regulate yourself, how to regulate your emotions as the mediator before you begin to have a party for you to mediate in. So you must know your own emotional outbursts, emotional givings as a mediator, then for you to be able to understand the emotions of the parties in conflict. So self-awareness is a very important skill, very important tool for mediators and peacekeepers in conflict resolution. Secondly, we have you have to empathize with the conflicting party. Show empathy. That is, look at it not from your exalted position as a mediator or peacekeeper. Put yourself in the shoes, to put it in a layman's language, the shoes of the party that you are mediating for, the party in conflict, and look at it from their own perspectives, from their own emotions, from their own givings and misgivings. What are their kind of mental development within the system? So you have to regulate it, have a rapport, and then build trust in yourself as the mediator. Then they will trust you. The parties in conflict will now trust you that, yes, this man is being honest, is feeling like us, is not detached from us. He has the same feeling, has the same empathy with us. Therefore, we trust that they will be able to resolve the conflict. Then you have to, for you to be able to carry along in terms of self-awareness, empathy, you have to also develop, you would have developed a effective communication skill, which of course entails active listening when the two parties or two groups in contention are talking. You have to listen effectively so that you'll be able to understand what they are saying. You'll be able to now put 2 plus 2 together to be able to sit in judgment over them. Then it also entails effective communication. You have to talk to them the language to understand. You have to show respect to them. No ambiguity in what you are saying. And of course, you can only do this if you were listening actively when they were stating their cases. So you give your clear expression of your thoughts when it is your turn to begin to deliberate on what they have been saying, and then match their feelings, and then adapting communication styles to suit their various emotions, or in terms of a group, their various audiences you are mediating in. And in conflict resolution, you need to manage emotions. And it's very important because in terms of conflict resolution, depending on how one feels cheated or maligned by a system, his emotions may run high. Even between two brothers, when they are stating their cases, the emotions may run high. So you'll be able to manage your own emotions, show that you are emotionally detached from the issues at stake. You are not showing particular interest in anybody, but interest in the case. And of course, when you detach this, you'll be able to manage your own emotions and manage the emotions of those in conflict very objectively and constructively. And then, of course, you focus on the interests presented and not on the positions. This will help you really as a peacemaker, peacekeeper, and a mediator, to be able to resolve a conflict using emotional intelligence skills. There are so many respects, but since we are, I'm not alone, I will leave it for my colleague to come in. But let me just say that these skills are very helpful, no matter the situation you find yourself when you are trying to resolve conflict. You must not see it as impossible. You must not show desperation or even surrender in any issue. Rather, what you do is show what they call growth growth mindset for you, that no matter how large, how big the conflict is, or the respondents are in trying to lay down their own perspectives, that don't see it as a problem, but see it as a challenge that will help you further to dig into the issues involved and be able to resolve the conflict effectively. Let me pause for now.
Thank you very much, Dr. Emeka, for that beautiful presentation. You spoke about, a lot when it comes to emotional intelligence, about self-awareness, about trust, empathy, communication, managing emotions, which are key components of emotional intelligence. So thank you very much for that. So we're moving on to Mrs. Deuces Susan. First, we would love you to share with us your experience from the ongoing 1 month free online certification training on emotional intelligence, and also what you would have to say concerning today's topic. So please go ahead, Mrs. Susan.
Okay. Good evening, Madam Janet, Mr. Emeka, and everyone who took our time to be part of this discussion. I'd like to first of all use this opportunity to appreciate the Institute of Global Peace and Conflict Management for deeming it fit to organize this training. It has been very beneficial. Um, when when I got the link, at first I just joined to see what it was all about, but I ended up picking interest. It has been very educative, so impactful that I always sit down desperately waiting for the time to reach so I could join the online class. I want to really appreciate the institute for this opportunity. Talking about what I've gained a lot. There are times that when I join, I feel like I feel I was directly like it's directly affected, or it's the knowledge has been um so much and huge. First of all, it enhances good leadership, effective leadership. If as a mediator or a peacekeeper you engage in this training, you tend to learn a lot how to be a good mediator, how to be a good peacekeeper, putting yourself in people's shoes, having that empathy. It helps a lot. If you have empathy for others, you put yourself in their shoes, you sympathize, you don't really sympathize, you put yourself in their shoes, and then you give them that you give them that feeling of they feel relaxed and they trust you, knowing that you understand them, and then they open up to you. They'll open up to you when you do that, to share their feeling, because there are people that when they start sharing their problems, they will just tell you, you won't understand, you don't understand. But when you have that empathy and they know, they'll open up to you. That show of care will mean a lot to them. And then communication, when you communicate with them, you talk well. There are times that some people may not know how to relate well to other people, especially in conflict situation. But when you communicate well, you calm down to listen to them. Active listening, listen to them, understand them, before you try to you try to advise them on what to do. When you understand them, when some people, when you give them that active listening, they know that you're understanding them well, they relax, and then they open up to you, and then they know you trust them, you put yourself in their shoes. And then this um talking about it enhances better relationship between people too. It enhances better relationship between people, because at the end of it all, it develops it develops good relationship between people. and then I think that's it.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Susan, for that. You spoke about leadership, emotional intelligence, making, building leaders, leadership skill. You also spoke about better relationship between people and also active listening, which are key and important components of emotional intelligence. So thank you very much once again. So to our audience, we would love to have you in this conversation. So please do well to reach out to us through the comment section. Let us know your thoughts towards this. Let us have your questions, and we will do well to attend to them. So once again, we are looking at how can emotional intelligence training programs enhance the skills for mediators and peacekeepers. Now, I want to talk about mediators and peacekeepers. They are important personalities when it comes to conflict resolution. We are at a time and age where conflict is common. We have conflict, conflict with oneself, conflict with people, between communities. We are also seeing conflict between nations. So that is very important. It's important to have mediators and peacekeepers. Now, looking at this mediators and peacekeepers, there are certain skills that mediators and peacekeepers are supposed to have. There are certain skills that are important to that role description. And these skills involves, just like we have mentioned, Dr. Emeka mentioned it, and Mrs. Susan also mentioned it, which is key, is active listening, which is very important. And I want to talk about active listening. What do we actually mean? It's the ability to fully concentrate, to understand, to respond, and not just to understand, to respond, but to remember, to recall what is being said. Most of the times we have mediators or peacekeepers or peace ambassadors or people involved in a conflict or people who are planning to resolve a conflict, coming into that conflict, and they do not have listening, listening skills. They cannot comprehend what is happening or the conflict at hand, and anything you can't understand, you cannot resolve. So active listening is a very key component that mediators and peacekeepers should have, and also it helps them, to accurately understand the concerns and the needs of all the parties involved, fostering trust and also open communication. And when we talk about active listening, we are trying to say that there is need for the mediator or the peacekeepers to be unbiased, to listen effectively from both parties. Now, it's not just listening to one party and not knowing what the other party has to say. For that conflict to be understood, both parties should be given attention to. So this leads me to the question of what role, and this is to Dr. Emeka, what is the major importance, or what role do we think that active listening plays, in issues of mediation? And now let's look at practical examples. What can active listening do, to enhance? Because active listening is also a key component of emotional intelligence, and we are looking at how emotional intelligence training or program can enhance the skill of mediator. So as a mediator, as a peacekeeper, why do you need active listening in areas of conflict? So we would love to hear from you, Dr. Emeka.
Yes, as a mediator, I mean, if you don't listen, what are you mediating on? You listen attentively, actively, in order to be able to decipher what each person in conflict is saying, is talking about, in order to not just listen. And that's why it's called active listening. You must listen attentively, and you must understand what they're saying so that you'll be able to adjudicate to some extent, as it were. So active listening is a very important tool in the hand of the mediator, because one, when you are listening to the parties in conflict actively, using both body language, eye contact, and other body movements, showing that you are really listening. They now believe that you are serious in what they are saying. If somebody is talking to you and you are not, you are saying, go ahead, and then you are not paying attention, and you are not observant, then the people may feel that you are not serious. So why are they wasting their saliva? So active listening is number one, because don't forget that we have people that have different prisms to which they understand the world. They have their own perspective. They have their own worldview about every issue, either within a family or within a state, within a nation, even within a kindred. So if you say you are the mediator, you come in and you are listening, you'll be able to listen, to understand, and even, if possible, ask follow-up questions. It's like an interview in a radio program. An interview, when you ask somebody a question and he has answered, if there are aspects of that answer that you didn't quite understand, you'll be able to follow up to ask further questions or further explanation from the party, from the person that is doing the presentation. So by listening actively, you are promoting the people, showing them they are important, and from their own perspective, they see you that yes, you are listening to them, and you are very serious in what they are saying, and you know understand what they are saying, so that they expect that you will be objective and you'll be constructive at the end of the day. So it's a very important aspect of mediation and peacekeeping too.
Thank you very much, Dr. Emeka. Thank you very much for that beautiful response. So to our viewers, once again, we can see you, we appreciate you, and we're looking forward to your contributions and also your questions. So to Mrs. Susan, we spoke about one of the very key components of emotional intelligence was effective communication. And now we're looking at mediators and peacekeepers and how effective emotional intelligence can help sharpen their skills when it comes to conflict management and conflict analysis and even conflict resolution. So when we talk about effective communication, we're talking about the ability to convey information clearly, precisely and also respectfully, in quotes, both verbally and non-verbally. Dr. Emeka did well to talk to us about, body language, which is also another which is key in communication. It's not just about what you say, it is how you react to things and how people and what people perceive at the end of the day. So one of the importance of this effective communication, it's to help facilitate dialogue, to clarify misunderstanding, and also to guide parties towards resolution. So it is important for both parties to understand themselves, and without effective communication, that is likely not to happen. So we would love you to shed more light on effective communication, which is one of the skills of mediators and peacekeepers, and how emotional intelligence, or how the knowledge of emotional intelligence or emotional intelligence training and program can help enhance and sharpen that skill.
I didn't get the question, please.
Okay, so the question is, how can emotional intelligence help sharpen the skill of effective communication when it has to do with mediators and peacekeepers?
Okay. Communication is a very important key as a mediator, because because without good communication skills, a confrontational approach is likely to come up, leading to maybe defensive or even hurt. So sometimes, um by improving communicate by improving like by improving a very well by having a good communication skill, it can it can it can it can be achieved through active listening and a good communication skills. Once you learn how to communicate with somebody, your manner of approach tends to make one feel relaxed and comfortable, build trust in you when talking to you. Because there are times whereby, um if someone should come to you, if for instance, let me give an instance, someone should you know someone is wrong. When someone does something and the person is wrong, and you want to talk to the person about that particular thing, the manner of approach, the way you communicate with the person matters a lot. Because of our emotions, people have different emotions and how they react to things. So when you communicate in a soft way, or you are being you try to be diplomatic in relating to somebody, then it helps a lot. But when you don't have a good communication skills, it will result to a confrontational approach, and it may end up making the mediation not to be a successful one.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much, Mrs. Susan, for that. Now, let's look at another key skill when it comes to, the skill of a mediator and also a peacekeeper. But before then, we have one of our students who is with us. Mr. Babatunde, you're welcome, sir. Uh, Please let us know if you can hear
Thank you
us.
very much. Sorry for I'm hearing you. Sorry for coming this time around.
You're welcome, sir. We are glad you could make our time to join us. So before you came, we are actually talking about how emotional intelligence training program enhance the skills of mediators and also peacekeepers. And as students of the ongoing 1 month professional online training course on emotional intelligence, we are looking forward to hearing your perspective on this topic and also your experience so far and what you have learned. So before we proceed, we would love you to share with us your experience so far for the ongoing 1 month free online training course and also your perspective towards this topic. So you can go ahead, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me. Actually, it has been a mind-blowing section, and our facilitator has been very, very uh, good on this issue. Uh, when it comes to emotional intelligence and how it affects the peacemakers and the mediators, is an experiment that one need to really pass through. When it comes to those that are to mediate on an issue, they need to equip themselves with all round emotions. They need to be very aware of all the tools that are available that will make their mediations stress free. They need to be aware of all the necessary tools that is available. So the experience has been very, very fantastic. In fact, on daily basis, I used to learn new things. Those things that we don't count as very, very important. has shown to us that they mind a lot, especially when it comes to making peace, when it comes to relationship with people, when it comes to how we comport ourselves in various fields. So the experience has been fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Babatunde, for that. We appreciate you. Also, once again, we're still on the topic. How can emotional intelligence training program enhance the skills of mediators and peacekeepers? And earlier we started off on the skills of mediators and peacekeepers, and we said mediators are and peacekeepers play key roles, important roles when it comes to conflict management, conflict analysis, and conflict resolution. So we are looking at this skill set, the skill set of these mediators and peacekeepers, and how emotional intelligence, which is important, how it helps to sharpen that skill set that is needed to mediate and then to resolve conflict. So earlier we spoke about active listening, which is a key skill for mediators and peacekeepers. We spoke about communication skills, and next we'll be looking at the skill of impartiality and objectivity. And when we say impartiality, what do we mean? We're talking about the ability to remain neutral and unbiased when taking without taking sides in conflict. So we have several situations where mediators and peacekeepers who are supposed to be, who are supposed to resolve this conflict, taking sides, and once bias comes into the picture, then the conflict resolution process becomes ineffective, and it is actually important to maintain impartiality because this will actually help the mediator or the peacekeeper to gain trust of those parties. And when there's no trust, then there's no there's no sight of conflict resolution. So Mr. Babatunde, we would love you to share more light on this aspect or this skill of mediators and peacekeepers which has to do with impartiality and objectivity, and how emotional intelligence can help sharpen that skill for conflict resolution.
Okay, thank you. As a mediator needs to be very, very neutral. It has to be very, very neutral. As a mediator, you cannot take side. If you want the people you are dealing with to take you very, very seriously, somebody who is mediating between the two parties has to have this skill to be very, very neutral when it comes to emotional charges. By managing their own bias, you need to first of all manage your own bias. You need to equip yourself with these tools that are available. A person who wants to mediate where there is conflict must show that he has the capacity, he has the intellectual, he has the skill that is necessary for him to be able to make peace between the both parties. In any issue that is available, you must have understanding of those issues so that you know how to be able to settle between the two parties. If you don't have understanding in dealing with sensitive issues, you may not know by the time you are already raising a bias, and this will speak negativity of such a mediator. So a mediator have to maintain a neutral stand. You must stand on your neutrality, that you are not supporting A or supporting B. So I think this is one of the things that a mediator has to show, that he is very, very impartial as far as conflict resolution is concerned. Thank you. Hello, hello.
Okay, yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Babatunde, for that beautiful response. So next we will be looking at another important skill of mediators and peacekeepers and how emotional intelligence can help sharpen that skill. And the skill we'll be looking at is conflict analysis.
Yeah.
So conflict analysis is very important because there's no way conflict can be understood if it is not being analyzed. And when we're talking about analysis, what are we talking about? We're talking about the ability to assess and understand the root causes. There are dynamics of conflict. There's need to understand the dynamics and also, which is a very key and important aspect, is the stakeholders of the conflict. There's a need to know the stakeholders, to know the root causes, because most of the times mediators or peacekeepers look at the shallow cause of that conflict, and most times it is not. There's actually need to go in depth to look at the root causes of every conflict, which is unique in itself. So there's a need to understand the root causes, the dynamics, and also the stakeholders that are involved in this conflict. And it is important because when thorough conflict analysis is carried out, it helps mediators and peacekeepers to develop effective strategies for resolution. Just like I said earlier, every conflict is unique in itself, so there's a need for the development of effective strategies in order to enhance that conflict resolution. So to Dr. Emeka, we would love to hear from you on this skill of conflict analysis that mediators and peacekeepers ought to have. How can emotional intelligence help to sharpen that skill? Or what key role does emotional intelligence and the program, the training, what key roles does it play in helping mediators, in helping peacekeepers help to sharpen the skill of conflict analysis?
Okay. First of all, we're talking about the mediator being aware of the power dynamics within the central point of contention. You must understand that the mediator's emotions and biases may impact negatively or very negatively or anyhow, and it depends on it provides the pedestal for judging the competence and professionalism and even the credibility of the mediator. So the mediator must know that these biases may affect seriously a very big issue. And if in conflict resolution, you are looking at a win-win situation, don't forget that conflict management is about, is like the alternative dispute angle, unlike the court where you go there and you say, this man, you are guilty as charged, and therefore you go to prison. In conflict management, you look at a win-win situation. Everybody must have something to take home, no matter how small. Yet the person who feels aggrieved may get a bigger chunk of the compensation, but the person who also is the aggressor must also go home to say, yes, I think these people took a wise decision. I think they took a good decision. Tomorrow, I will not go to court. I will go to the alternative dispute resolution to resolve my problems. And then that, of course, increases, as I say, it enhances professional credibility. It improves the mediation outcome. That tomorrow, of course, you have built some trust with the parties. You have been able to manage these conflicts effectively by looking at the root cause of it and taking a decision, so that not just conflict management you are talking about, you are looking at conflict eradication completely. Because if you say this has happened without going to the root of it, you are now giving what they call the negative peace. but you must strive to create that positive peace, which will put an end to that conflict. It means that the conflict has been well managed. And if that is the situation, then it means that you have improved, you have enhanced the mediation outcome, and therefore you show the professional zeal, professional competence, and then credibility. And tomorrow, people will have the belief system in the mediation and peacekeeping efforts will be enhanced in the world. So again, you have to have the mindfulness during this deliberation, because there are certain things that there are so many perspectives. People look at the world and issues from different perspectives. Could be cultural, could be religious, it could be social, it could be economic. So you have to have a mindfulness. You have to stay focused. You have to be present. Follow the nuances, one after the other, the development of the story, so that you arrive at a destination. That will also increase the self-confidence that the mediator will have. And when the self-confidence in the mediator is high, he will be able to dispense justice, his mediation process, without fear or favor, in a peaceful, justiciable manner, where everybody feels that, yes, you have adjudicated properly. It's a win-win situation at the end of the day. Therefore, the future is bright for mediation and peacekeeping. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Emeka, for that beautiful response. So we'll be looking at the last skill so that we can go to the comment section and hear what our viewers have to say. So the next skill we'll be looking at that mediators and peacekeepers should have is the skill of patience and persistence. When we're talking about patience and persistence, we're talking about the ability to remain calm, to remain composed, and also to be persistent in pursuing peaceful solutions, even when the process is slow. So there are certain conflicts that most at times the process of conflict resolution is slow, and sometimes it can be tiring if the mediator or the peacekeeper does not have the skill, of being patient and persistent. They might not want to push through with the process of resolving that conflict. So it is important to know that conflicts can be complex and sometimes they can be drawn out, but it is good that mediators and peacekeepers be patient and also be committed to the process of conflict resolution. So Mr. Babatunde, we would love you to shed more light on this. Now we're talking about the skill of patience and persistence of mediators and peacekeepers. Now, what role can emotional intelligence play in helping mediators and peacekeepers sharpen the skill of persistence and patience when it comes to conflict resolution processes?
Thank you very much. A mediator and a peacekeeper must have understanding that when it comes to conflict is multifaceted. There are different dimensions and different levels of conflicts. But the mediator must know that these different perspectives or these different situations when it comes to conflict, and he has to prepare himself in such a way that he has that recognition. So having this understanding is one of the key points that a mediator has to know. Number two is that a mediator must remain positive. Negative impulse can result in other negative reactions, such as they used to say, there is wisdom in patience. You have to be calm, you have to be patient for you to really understand those areas, those issues that are being highlighted in the conflict zone. And with this calmness, you'll be able to know how to go into it and how to navigate and making sure that none of the parties has a negative reaction towards what you are saying. So a mediator must have these skills around him, that issue of being remaining calm is something he must take along. You must remain calm. You must remain calm. You must be able to have this skill. Then another thing I'm thinking a mediator should be able to do also is that you should be able to adjust to the situation around you. You must have a negotiation skill. You must be able to know what you need to put in place for you to be able to negotiate for this peace that you are mediating upon. So having calmness, having the ability to adjust on the negotiation table, having the skill to recognize that conflict is of different levels and of different stages will make the peacekeepers and the mediators to navigate when there are issues and when there are conflicts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Babatunde, for that. So we'll be moving to the comment section. Let's see what our audience are saying, their contribution, and also their questions. So we have one here from Mr. Jeremiah Peters, and he says, emotional intelligence is a game changer for mediators and peace personnel. It's been fascinating to see how understanding and managing emotions can really elevate their ability to connect with people, diffuse tension, and foster genuine dialogue. This section has highlighted how these keys are key to creating sustainable peace in our communities. Now, here comes the question. He says, but can emotional intelligence alone be enough in situations where deep-rooted conflicts exist? The question is, can emotional intelligence alone be enough in situations where deep-rooted conflicts exist?
I agree with that.
So Mr. Dr. Emeka, please, we would love to have you respond to this question. Can emotional intelligence alone be enough in situations where deep-rooted conflict exists?
Emotional intelligence, the questioner had already agreed, is all encompassing. Emotional intelligence is bringing in all the skills, God-given skills in you that you had left in limbo, which emotional intelligence has now brought up in you to be able to know that with emotional intelligence in the way you do things, you can. There's no conflict that is unresolvable. At the initial stage, it may look as if yes, this conflict is bigger than you, even though it's said that it's not every conflict you must go in. For instance, look at let's take the Russia-Ukraine conflict. It's a very big conflict that involves NATO, involves the Eastern Bloc, and so on and so forth. So emotional intelligence alone cannot cause the ceasefire, but emotional intelligence will be able to, like those who are negotiating, they have their foreign affairs ministers and ambassadors. When you meet them, you bring them to the table, you employ the skills of emotional intelligence to talk to them to be able to go back to their own home countries to tell them of the need to maintain peace and not cause a turbulent world. Yes, I agree. Emotional intelligence is not enough to solve all problems. And of course, you are told that in certain problems, it's not every problem that you just dive in and say you use emotional intelligence. But there are some aspects that emotional intelligence will play its own part, which is very huge, like the Gaza Israeli war. Blinken, the US Secretary of State, has said, we are going to have a round table, bring everybody to the table, and that he says this is the best time now because at the initial stage, when emotional intelligence was employed, it was not enough. The Gaza people said, no, I no agree. Israel said, no, we no agree. And so they fought and killed themselves. Now, perhaps they don't want to kill further, or they have nobody to kill again. The emotional intelligence will now take over. So they are going on the round table to discuss ceasefire and release of hostages. If they had done this earlier, there wouldn't have been need for the conflict in the first place. So emotional intelligence is not an all-solving, underlined, all-solving problem, but is a huge problem-solving skills and mechanism in the world that is full of conflict, in the home that is full of conflict, in the streets that is full of conflict. So that's my answer to that question.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much, Dr. Emeka, for that answer. And also thank you, Mr. Jeremiah Peters, for your contribution and also for your question. We hope it has been duly attended to. So once again, thank you. Moving forward, we'll be taking another comment from our audience, from Mrs. Florence. Says effective communication consists right choice of words. There are some words that affect conflict resolution negatively. So good choice of words and expression are very important. So Mrs. Susan, we would love you to react to this, react to what Mrs. Florence is saying on the use of the right choice of words, which can okay, when the choice of word is wrong, it can negatively affect the conflict resolution. So we'd love you to react to this comment.
Okay. Thank you very much. Choice of words are very important during conflict resolution because the point is there's already conflict and the heat of anger and misunderstanding is already there. So the choice of words is very important because when there are words that when you don't use a good communication skills, it end up um um, um, um increasing the heat of anger. It end up misunderstanding the whole thing. It will bring about more misunderstanding between the parties instead of trying to calm them down, trying to see how they can resolve the misunderstanding between them. And then so it's very important to choose which words, to select what to say, when to say them during the mediation or during the conflict resolution.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Susan, for that response. And thank you, Mrs. Florence, for that contribution. We appreciate that. So moving forward, because of time, we'll be taking the last comments. Not actually the last, but the last we'll be looking at for today's episode. So we have a comment here from Mr. Matthew. Um, Okay, sorry, we'll take the one from Mr. Sunday. It says in analysis, that's talking about conflict analysis, it is necessary you look for common ground and area of disparities as well as missing links in the narration. I take it again. It says in analysis, in conflict analysis, you look for common ground and area of disparities as well as missing links in narration. So, Mr. Babatunde, we would love you to react to this comment from Mr. Sunday.
Okay, thank you. In conflict resolution, there is need for the mediators to actually have effective communication skill. He must understand where the missing link is. There is need for clarity, there is need for honesty and respect in communication. He must build a foundation of understanding and trust. So when it comes to conflict management and conflict resolution, the the mediator must be very clear in his understanding. He must be very clear of what he or she wants to achieve. So it is very key that the mediator has a very effective listening, effective communication, so that at the end of the day, he'll be able to achieve his own target. He should be able to have this understanding so that at the end of the day, there should be no mismanage or misuse of narration. You mean to say this, or you are saying something else. So there should be a clarity. People should understand what you are trying to say. I may just want to give a scenario here. Something happened in my organization. There is a memo that came out and people begin to misinterpret what is in that memo. The memo is talking about exited staff. The staff have left the organization, but somebody is saying existing staff. So the communication was not perfect, and at the end of the day, this is trying to create an uproar within the organization. So in conflict resolution, we must be very careful of the choice of word. We must be very careful how we use our words, and we must be very careful in the way and manner we present our words, so that people will not misquote or misinform of what the mediator is trying to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Babatunde, for that response, and thank you to Mr. Sunday for that contribution. We appreciate you for that. Our time is fast spent. We might not be able to take every contribution, but to our audience, we see you. We see Mrs. Jane here. We see Mr. Yahaya. Okay, Mrs. Yahaya Sherifat, where she says mediators and peacemakers should not be judgmental. Thank you very much for that. I'll just do a run through. Mr. Matthew here says it has helped me understand certain issues in the workplace and how to avoid them. Thank you very much for that feedback. He's talking about the ongoing 1 month free online certification training on emotional intelligence and how it has helped him to understand certain issues in the workplace and how to avoid them. Thank you very much for that. So that would be the last. Okay, we have here lastly Mr. Isaiah. He said impartiality must be observed, and he says you don't give up or despair, especially when things are tougher for you, which is also important for emotional intelligence. It says here patience, persistence, and resilience are key. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your contribution to our audience. We sincerely appreciate you for taking out time to join us. So thank you once again. My name is Janet Michael, Director for Media and Information, and it's a pleasure having you with us. We have Mr. Babatunde